UFC Fight Night Font versus Vera full card prediction with 12 very solid MMA fights in the card. Rob fought Marlon Cheeto Vera in the main event. I believe this is the first main event for Marlon Cheeto Vera. Both guys coming off losses to Jose Aldo, so this should be a really good fight. Andre Arlovsky's on here, one of the oldest MMA fighters in the UFC, and has almost the most fights ever in the UFC, especially in that heavyweight division, taking on Jake Collier, who was a middleweight and is now a heavyweight. That's just absolutely insane. We got veteran Andre Fili taking on Joanderson Brito. We got Grant Dawson, Jared Gordon, two veterans in Darren Elkins and Tristan Connelly, Gerald Meerschaert, Krzysztof Jotko, Francisco Figueiredo, the brother of Davis and Figueiredo, taking on the killer Daniel da Silva, Yohan Lainesse, and Gabe Green, Natan, Levy, Mike Breeden, Gina Mazany, Shanna, Tatsuro, Taira, the flyweight prospect from Japan, taking on Carlos Candelario, who's probably supposed to be undefeated. And then we got Chase Sherman and Alexandr Romanov. This should be a very solid card as usual. If you want to like the video, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and now we're going to get into the first fight here in the UFC heavyweight division. Alexandr Romanov and Chase Sherman in the heavyweight division. I want to be very honest with you. This is not a prediction. This is I don't even know. This is just, it's one of those fights where you already know what's going to happen. You don't know if he's going to get the knockout or if he's going to get the submission, but one of those two things is going to happen. Either Romanov takes down Chase Sherman and he TKOs him with a buttload of grind a pound, or he takes down Chase Sherman and he submits him easily in the very first round. One of those two things is going to happen here. I'm not going to give you too much on there. Alexandr Romanov inside the distance by finish. I'm going to lean towards a TKO. Tatsuro, Taira, and Carlos Candelario in the flyweight division. Both guys, in my opinion, undefeated. Carlos Candelario supposed to be 9-1 with that split decision loss on the Contender Series to Victor Altamirano, but he still ended up getting the UFC contract after that. Before that, got some really solid win, Miguel Restrepo, and then a few guys, Ronaldo Candido as well. More of a decision type of guy, doesn't get too many finishes, a few ground pound TKOs, submissions every now and then on his record. I am expecting the fight to go to a decision. I don't think that he's going to be able to submit Carlos Candelario. He is a very good grappler, very good wrestler with 10 wins and 0 losses. A lot of submissions over some pretty decent guys. 3-0, 6-2, 12-6-1, 6-3. I mean, not the absolute best opponents over there, but they're pretty decent opponents either way. Undefeated in the amateur MMA career as well. Every single win coming by finish, mainly by submission, except for these decisions right there, and those are the only 2 decisions on his record. It should be a very good fight. Tatsuro Taira is going to be the better grappler. The wrestling, it's going to be pretty even in that department, but grappling, jiu-jitsu, submission skills, yeah, we're going to go Tatsuro Taira. But in terms of volume, in terms of power, in terms of the strikes that they're going to land on the feet, I do give a slight advantage to Carlos Candelario, and I don't think it should be this close, or this spread out of a fight. I mean, minus 280 for the debuting Tatsuro Taira, who has never fought in the UFC before, has not fought a fighter with the record or with the experience of Carlos Candelario, the skills of Carlos Candelario. This is by far the toughest test for Tatsuro Taira. I am going to lean Tatsuro Taira to win the fight, but the odds right now are, in my opinion, pretty ridiculous at minus 320 for Tatsuro Taira. I think it should be a little bit closer as Tatsuro Taira is coming in on this fight with a lot of finishes. Sometimes, if he's not able to get the finish in the first or second round, it starts to edge out to the later rounds where Carlos, being the dog that he is, putting on the pressure, making it a war type of a fight. That's where the advantage does come in for Carlos Candelario. So it is very close. I could see it being a 29-28 split decision either way, but I'm going to lean Tatsuro Taira. It is so close in my opinion. Tatsuro, I'm going to go for him to win the fight by a decision, slightly keeping it very even on the feet, mixing in the takedowns, winning round 1 and round 2, and losing the third, but it is way too close to call. Very close fight there in the flyweight division. Gina Mazany and Shanna in the flyweight division. 2 girls, I'm going to be honest, probably about to get cut from the UFC. One of of them is Shayna Young, 0-2 in the UFC, losing to Meerschaert and Stephanie Egger. That's not a good look. She did get some decent wins over there on the regional scene, but come on, 0-0 and then 8-5. She lost to Sarah Alpar by submission. She lost to Stephanie Egger by ground and pound TKO. I mean, she's going to be having a 3.5-inch reach disadvantage here. Gina Mazany's the better wrestler, the better grappler. It should be a Gina Mazany win, but you know Gina Mazany, you know what happened in her last fight with Priscilla Cachoeira, in that she really was not able to keep her cardio up to par with her opponent, and she ended up getting a little bit gassed out in that fight. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, I'm super confident on Gina Mazany. I do think she's going to win. I think she should win it fairly easily, but she should have won the Priscilla Cachoeira fight fairly easily, but she got gassed out after wrestling, after grappling, then she got TKO'd in the second round. I think we should see a wrestling and grappling decision win for Gina Mazany. That's what I'm going to go for this fight. She's fought very legit opponents: Juliana Pena, Sarah McMahon, Lena Landsberg, Meerschaert, Julia Avia, and then, Priscilla Cachoeira. But it should be decent. I don't think either fighter is really UFC caliber, in my opinion. Shayna Young, really, her only chance of winning is going to be later on in the fight with the TKO or something like that. That's really the only way, after Gina Mazany's gas. But if Gina works on her cardio a lot before this fight, which I think she probably did, considering the last fight with Priscilla, I think she should just go out there and grind out a wrestling and grappling TKO or submission. I don't think a decision, because, I mean, Shayna Young just got taken out easily in her last fight. She got submitted by Sarah Alpar, TKO by Stephanie Egger. I'm going to go Gina Mazany, bouncing back in a big way with a nice TKO win in the first or second round. Mike Breeden and Natan Levy in the lightweight division. Now, two guys that are 0-1 in the UFC. One's a little bit older at 33 years old, a little bit taller, and a little bit less lengthy than Natan Levy, so it all kind of evens out right there. But Natan Levy did lose to Javier Garcia. Mike Breeden did lose to Alexandr Hernandez, but neither guy, I think, is really UFC caliber, in my opinion. Natan Levy's almost there, but Mike Breeden just really got in the UFC, luckily, on a short notice fight with Alexandr Hernandez. That's the only real reason that he's in the UFC, because he got a short notice call. And you've seen a lot of these short notice guys that come into the UFC lose that debut. They get another fight against another guy that they're trying to build up in the UFC, like Natan Levy in this case. It just seems like the UFC wants Natan Levy to win. They probably have a few fights for Mike Breeden on his contract. They're kind of trying to get Mike Breeden's contract out of the way right there. And Natan Levy, he's a good prospect. I mean, he did make it pretty close with the Javier Garcia fight. Arguably did win one of those rounds. I'm not going to sit here and say he won the actual fight, but he won one of those rounds. He's a good wrestler. He's a good grappler. Got a decent striking game. He's not going to go out there and knock anyone out, but he's got a good submission game. Third round submission, first round submission, and plenty of submissions on the regional scene as well. But Mike Breeden, I mean, with the 10 wins, 4 losses, one of the losses by knockout, decision, and a knockout. I don't think we're going to see a submission here. He's never been submitted in his amateur or professional MMA career. I'm expecting a grinding out decision for Natan Levy. He's younger, he's a little bit more athletic, he's got the better wrestling, the better grappling, and he can keep the fight very even on the feet as well. So, Natan Levy by a unanimous decision. Yohan Lainesse and Gabe Green in the welterweight division. Gabe Green, decent prospect there. He did lose to Danny Rodriguez by unanimous decision, but that's a good thing right there. Gabe Green did not get knocked out by Danny Rodriguez, and we know how much power Danny Rodriguez has going out there, knocking out Preston Parsons, Dwight Grant, so many guys on the regional scene. Gabe Green, Mike Perry, and Kevin Lee are the 3 guys that were able to not get finished by Danny Rodriguez. So that's a good thing to have on Gabe Green's record. But Gabe is going to be, I would say, the more technical striker, if you can really say that. Neither guy's really a technical type of striker, but that's not what he's going to have to do. The striking is not where Gabe Green is going to win the fight. It's going to be with the wrestling, with the grappling, with the ground and pound, submission attempts, things like that. That is how Gabe Green is going to win the fight, is taking the fight down and winning on the ground. Whereas Yohan Lainesse, keep the fight on the feet, defend the takedowns, use that height advantage, use that reach advantage, both being 3 inches for the height and for the reach. He should keep the fight on the feet, use the length that he is going to have on this fight. the takedown defense that he's going to have in the fight and outstrike Gabe Green. I do not think he's going to knock out Gabe Green because Daniel Rodriguez was not able to knock out Gabe Green. But, you know, Yohan is a little bit, I don't know if y'all are going to agree with me on this, but I do think Yohan is slightly more powerful in what he throws. Daniel Rodriguez might be more powerful if he just threw the biggest shot he possibly could. But Daniel isn't throwing everything he has on a lot of his punches. Yohan is kind of doing that, and he's throwing some huge shots every single time. So I'm not going to be surprised if Yohan Lainesse knocks out Gabe Green here, but I'm going to lean towards a decision because Gabe did not get knocked out by Danny Rodriguez. He's going to be striking for 3 rounds. Gabe will land a few takedowns here and there, grind a little bit there, and then Yohan will outstrike him for the rest of the fight. I'm going to go Yohan Lainesse winning this fight by a 29-28 decision. Daniel da Silva and Francisco Figueiredo in the flyweight division. I'm going to be honest, guys. This is such a close fight. I have been going back and forth on Francisco Figueiredo and Daniel da Silva. I'm going to tell you how both guys are going to win. Now, first off, Francisco Figueiredo, the way he's going to win, make it very, very lackluster. Make it the most boring fight you can ever imagine. And that's how Francisco is going to win. Keep on the feet. Just don't really do anything. Play the counter-punching role. Stay back. Have Daniel da Silva come to you. And then land some takedowns and grind out a decision with the wrestling and grappling. That is how Francisco Figueiredo is going to win. Is literally just play super timid on the feet. Not really do anything at all. And then as Daniel da Silva is coming in, land the takedown. Just control the fight on the ground and win the fight there. But, again, Daniel da Silva, that's why it's such a close fight, is that, yes, I can totally see Francisco Figueiredo doing that, landing the takedowns and grinding out a decision, but I can see Daniel da Silva landing a submission on the ground. He got that armbar submission win right there. He got a triangle choke submission win, got a knockout win, another triangle choke submission, 6 submission wins right there, 5 knockout wins. The man is a finisher. I'm going to be honest. This dude finishes every single fight, or he gets finished in every single fight, and Francisco Figueiredo is not a finisher. I mean, he's going to come forward, he's going to throw haymakers on the feet, and on the ground, I cannot trust that Francisco Figueiredo is going to be able to defend the submission. So it's either going to be a knockout or submission. It's not one. I'm going to be super confident going either way for Daniel da Silva by knockout or Daniel da Silva by submission. And again, that might not even happen. We can see Francisco grind in the wrestling to a decision. This is such a close fight. I'm gonna lean Daniel da Silva by finish. I'm not gonna specify a knockout or submission. It's just inside the distance. I cannot be so confident on Daniel because he's got 6 submissions and then I believe it was 5 knockouts there. So it's kind of spread out on how he wins the fight. But I'm gonna go Daniel da Silva very slightly right there by finish in the second round. Gerald Meerschaert and Krzysztof Jotko in the middleweight division. Krzysztof Jotko is a very solid striker. Did lose to Sean Strickland, who's another very solid striker, but that is Sean Strickland. Before that, he beat Marc-Andre Barrios, he beat Eric Anders, Alan Amadovsky, Misha Serganov, and then if we go back to a little bit of the fights before that, yes, he was on a losing streak, but look at the guys. Uriah Hall right there, ranked middleweight. Brad Tavares, ranked middleweight. David Branch, another former ranked middleweight, and then before that, he was on a crazy 5-fight win streak, mainly all by decision with 1 knockout win over Tamden McCrory. Then he got submitted right there. That is what worries me, is that submission from Magnus Queteblong. But it's not gonna. I don't see that happening, man. The takedown defense for Krzysztof Jotko since that 1 submission loss way back in 2014, it hasn't been improving so much. I believe his takedown defense is something like 83% or something absolutely amazing like that, but Gerald Meerschaert, his takedown offense is about 30 to 40%, something around that range, and he only really lands those takedowns in the 3rd round. That's why they call him GM3, Gerald Meerschaert number 3, because in that 3rd round, that is where he starts to pick it up. So I think Jotko is going to win the 1st and 2nd round fairly easily. He's going to defend the takedowns, just kind of outbox Gerald Meerschaert on the feet, just landing more volley, landing the harder shots, and just edging out those first 2 rounds. Then in the 3rd round, Gerald Meerschaert's going to to come back a little bit. He's going to go crazy on the feet. He's going to land some takedowns and look for some submissions. But Jotko's submission defense has been looking really good, especially in that last fight with Meerschaert. I think he defends the takedowns. He defends the submissions in that third round, maybe except for like one takedown. And I think this is going to be the end for Gerald Meerschaert. Yes, he's been doing it a lot. He did it against Bartosz Fabinski, Makhmut Muradov, and Dustin Stoltzfus, and he submitted all of them later on in that fight. But Krzysztof Jotko is a much better submission defense than all three of those guys. Much better striking than all of those guys, maybe except for Makhmut Muradov. But I'm going to go Jotko by a unanimous decision. Darren Elkins and Tristan Connelly in the featherweight division. Darren Elkins with 26 wins, 10 losses, a veteran if I've ever seen one inside of the UFC. The man is 37 years old, has literally nothing right here. Everything right here is scar tissue. It's going to cut up no matter what in any of his fights. But he either goes out there and gets finished in the first round, he gets grinded out by a decision by just better opponents like Volkanovski, Ryan Hall, and Lainesse, or he gets grinded out for a little bit and then he finishes them later on in the fights. He's beaten some really legit guys. I mean, Mirsad Bektik, Dennis Bermudez, Michael Johnson, Derek Minner. He also beat Stephen Seiler's decent, Diego Brandeo, Tiaquan Zhang right there. I mean, he's beating some solid guys, but he's losing to beasts. Chad Mendes, Jeremy Stevens, Alexandr Volkanovski, Ryan Hall, Ricardo Lamas. But yeah, dude, the man's striking has been going to the downhill in all of his fights recently. Tristan Connelly, I'm not going to say he's going to go out there and destroy Darren Elkins in the striking, nothing at all. But I'm saying is that both guys do have very good wrestling, very, very good grappling, and when you kind of get that type of fight where they both have good wrestling, good grappling, it tends to be a striking fight. Take Usman versus Covington, take Hamza versus Burns. Yes, there was a few takedowns here and there, like there will be in this fight, but it was mainly a striking fight for the full 3 rounds, and I do think this fight with Tristan Connelly and Darren Elkins is going to be a striking fight for three rounds right here, and I'm not super confident going Tristan Connelly right here, but I am going to go Tristan Connelly ever so slightly right here. I believe he has a little bit more pop in the punches right here. He's got a little bit more volume as well. Darren Elkins, yes, he can eat the shots. He's not going to get knocked out on the feet like he did with Cub Swanson right there. I don't think that's going to happen. Connelly doesn't have the power to do so, but I do think Connelly will be able to rough up the skin of Darren Elkins, cut him up a little bit, land a little bit more shots in terms of volume, and just grind out a 29-28 decision. It's not going to be one I'm going to put on my confident picks list because it is so close. Darren Elkins can pull something out of the bag and win in the third and final round, but I am going to lean Tristan Connelly slightly winning this fight by a 29-28 decision. Jared Gordon and Grant Dawson in the lightweight division. Jared Gordon, very solid opponent. His only losses recently was to Charles Oliveira, and that is absolutely insane because that is the champion of the UFC lightweight division. Did, also lose to Diego Ferreira, Joaquim Silva, and then Jeff Lentz over there, but he's got other really solid wins. Bill Algeo, Hakran Diaz, Michael Quinones, Dan Moret, Chris Fishgold, Danny Chavez, and the most notable of all of those wins being Joe Selecki in the last fight. Now, Joe Selecki is not as good of a striker as Grant Dawson, and Joe Selecki was able to land, I believe, 4 takedowns in that fight. Grant Dawson will be able to land about 4 takedowns in this fight. He has similar wrestling, similar grappling skills, in my opinion, to Joe Selecki, and striking wise, I do give a slight advantage to Jared Gordon in the striking, but it's not going to be that big of an advantage. I mean, in the last fight with Joe Selecki, he was able to outstrike him a little bit, but I think the wrestling and grappling of Grant Dawson is what's going to get on the win, obviously, and Grant Dawson's, for this fight here, he knows the game plan is to land the takedowns, grind out that decision, grind a pound, go for some submissions and things like that, and just keep it very even on the feet. Joe Selecki was not able to keep it fairly even on the feet. He was getting clearly outstruck in the striking. I believe Grant Dawson will be able to keep it fairly even on the feet, mixing some clinch work, some knees to the body, elbows, things like that, and just out wrestle and out grapple for that's very close 29-28 decision. I do not expect to finish. Grant Dawson, he didn't look amazing in the last fight with Ricky Glenn, but I think he'll land the takedowns here. He'll kind of keep it very at range on the feet because he is going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. finish and a 1-inch height advantage. Not super confident as of course, Jared Gordon could definitely go out there and just defend the takedowns and slightly outstrike him with the pressure and volume. But I think with the reach and height for Grant Dawson, that'll kind of force Jared Gordon to come into the range where Dawson will kind of pick him apart with the jab on the 1-2 and mix in the takedown. So I'm going to lean Grant Dawson by a decision right there. Andre Fili and Joanderson Brito in the featherweight division. Now, Andre Fili, I'm going to say he came off a loss. Daniel Pineda, he was absolutely destroying in their fight. Then, an eye poke happened and the fight did get canceled. Did lose to Bryce Mitchell right there. I'm not going to compare Bryce Mitchell to Joanderson Brito, even though they both like to get the fight down and grind out the wrestling and grappling decision. But Andre Fili did beat Charles Jourdain right there by a split decision. Shayman Moraes by knockout. Lost to Sodiq Yusuff. But Joanderson Brito was nowhere near the level of Bryce Mitchell, the level of Sodiq Yusuff. I mean, you can go down the list. Michael Johnson, I'm going to be honest, he's not even on the level of Michael Johnson. Calvin Kattar, Yair Rodriguez, Max Holloway, Gio Defrey Pepe, I mean, yeah, maybe. But all of these guys, these are crazy opponents that he's actually fighting. Andre Fili is fighting the who's who of the featherweight and lightweight division. He even fought the GOAT in Artem Lobov right there. That is and he beats the greatest of all time. I'm joking, but yeah, he's gonna be the better striker. He's taller, he's lengthier by 2 inches, and then by 3 inches in height. He's in the prime of his career. He's got the better striking. He's got the more volume. He's got more power in his hands, and his takedown defense is very legit. Aside from the Bryce Mitchell fight, so I think the fight stays in the feet. 3 rounds of striking. Andre Fili by a unanimous decision. Jay Collier and Andrei Arlovsky in the heavyweight division. Actually, Jay Collier, I was surprised when I saw this. He's gonna have the reach advantage here. That is crazy in my opinion. But Andrei Arlovsky, that is a crazy record. 33 wins and 20 losses, losing to look at this list. Tom Aspinall by 2nd round submission. Jairzinho Rozenstruik by 1st round knockout. Augusto Sakai, split decision. Taito Ivasa decision. Shamil Abdurrahimov decision. Marcin Tybura decision. Ngannou decision. Josh Barnett 3rd round submission. Alistair Overeem knockout. Stipe Miocic knockout. Anthony Johnson decision. Look at that list. Anthony Johnson, top 5 heavyweight right there. Stipe Miocic, former champion, greatest heavyweight of all time. Alistair Overeem, former title challenger. Josh Barnett, former champion. Ngannou, champion. Marcin Tybura, top 10 heavyweight. Taito Ivasa, top 5 heavyweight. Shamil Abdurrahimov, top 15 heavyweight. Augusto Sakai, top 15 heavyweight. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, top 15 heavyweight. Tom Aspinall, top 10 heavyweight. The guys that are beating him are the who's who of that top 15 of the heavyweight division. Everyone else, Chase Sherman, Carlos Felipe, Jared Vandeira, Tanner Bozer, Felipe Lins, Ben Rothwell, all of these guys are the guys right outside of that top 15, just sitting on the outside looking in, maybe looking to make a push one day. But all of these guys that are fighting Andrei Arlovsky are just, right outside of being ranked. And the only guys that are able to beat him are ranked opponents. Jay Collier is not a ranked opponent. He's nowhere near that type of guy. I mean, he got a win over Chase Sherman, and people are being like, oh my god, that is so impressive. No, it's not, man. He lost to Carlos Felipe 2 fights ago by split decision. He only beat John Vellante and Chase Sherman recently. Marcel Fortuna, Albert Ura, every single one of those fighters got cut from the UFC. Chase Sherman got cut for a while. John Vellante's out of the UFC. Marcel Fortuna out of the UFC. Alberto Ura out of the UFC. None of these guys are anywhere near Andrei Arlovsky. I mean, every time he takes a step up in competition, Carlos Felipe, Tom Aspinall, Devin Clark, he's losing those fights. So I'm going to be honest, Andrei Arlovsky is going to kickbox for 3 rounds, and he's going to outstrike him, and he's going to win the decision. Yes, there is the wrestling, there is the grappling that we saw from Jay Collier in the last fight with Chase Sherman, but it's not like he's going to take down Andrei Arlovsky, dominate him there, submit him. Tom Aspinall was able to do that to him, but we saw what Tom was able to do against Alexander Volkov. That was absolutely insane. So we're not going to take too much from that loss to Tom Aspinall. I think it's going to be striking for 3 straight rounds. Andrei Arlovski by a unanimous decision. Rob Font and Marlon Chito Vera in the bantamweight division. 5'8", 5'8", and then 71.5-inch reach and 70.5-inch reach. Slight lean on the betting odds to Rob Font. And in the Tapology predictions, another very slight lean for Rob Font. Now, knockout there. Now, Rob Font is not going to knock out Marlon Chito Vera. It's not going to happen. Marlon Chito Vera is not going to submit him. Knockout, it could be possible with the leg kicks, but in terms of knocking out Rob Font with punches to the chin, it's not going to happen. Maybe leg kick knockout, that would be the only way. Most likely, we're going to see a Vera decision, 48-47, or a Rob Font decision, 48-47. It is such a close fight. Marlon Chito Vera, 20 wins, 7 losses, and 1 loss, beating Frankie Edgar by knockout, Davey Grant by unanimous decision, O'Malley by knockout, Andre Ewell by knockout, Nohelin Hernandez by submission, Frankie Saenz by knockout, Guido Canetti by submission, Wuji Bren by body punch knockout, did lose to John Lineker, Douglas Silva de Andrade, Davey Grant early in the career, Marco Beltran, all of these guys, but he's much better now. I mean, the kickboxing from Marlon Chito Vera has been getting so much better in his last few fights. He's doing very, very, very well in the kicking game. The leg kicking, as we saw against Sean O'Malley, the head kicking, as we saw against Frankie Edgar, but I don't think he's going to be able to do that necessarily against Rob Font. Yes, he'll land a few leg kicks here and there and things like that, but I do believe Rob Font will be able to go out there and outbox Marlon Chito Vera. He's going to come forward, put on the pressure, put up that high guard, defend the head kicks of Marlon Chito Vera, maybe eat a few leg kicks, some body kicks here and there. But overall, he's going to land the more effective shots. He's going to land the harder shots to the chin of Marlon Chito Vera. He's going to land more volume than Marlon Chito Vera. I mean, he landed more volume against Jose Aldo, even though he kind of got dominated. But that was more towards the wrestling and grappling. On the feet against Jose Aldo, he was actually doing fairly decent in that fight. So was Marlon Chito Vera as well. But that's why it's such a close fight. That is why Rob Font, Marlon Vera is such a close fight. Because Marlon Vera could go out there, lose 1 round, lose 2 rounds, lose 3 rounds, and then leg kick knockout Rob Font, front kick knockout Rob Font. But I can't see Marlon Vera winning all of these rounds. I can't see him winning 3 out of 5 rounds. Because Font, no, he's going to put on that pressure. He's going to outbox Marlon Chito Vera. He's going to land that volume. He's going to land the harder punches. And I think they're gonna reward Rob Font on the judges' scorecards. I think Vera's main way of victory right here is going to be some knockout, some head kick, some front kick, some submission. I mean, honestly, he could get a submission here. You really never do know. I mean, we just saw Charles Jourdain get a submission, so you really don't know about that. But, yeah, I'm going to go Font by decision. I think he'll outstrike Marlon Vera, outbox him, and win a decision there. Outstriking for at least 3 rounds. I'm not going to say 4 or 5 rounds. It's not going to be that much of a domination. It'll be a very, very close fight. 2 rounds to go Vera with the kicking game, and just slightly edging out and staying away from the punches of Rob Font. But most of this fight is going to be Font pressing forward, landing the bigger shots, and winning this fight. Rob Font by a unanimous decision. That is the full card prediction. UFC Fight Night, Rob Font versus Marlon Chito Vera. I got Rob Font winning that fight right there. By decision. Andrei Arlovski by decision. Andre Fili by a decision. Grant Dawson, guess what? By a decision. Tristan Connelly, guess what? By a decision. Krzysztof Jotko by a decision. Daniel Da Silva by finish. Yohan Lainesse by a decision. Natan Levy by decision. Gina Mazany by TKO. Tatsuro Taira by a decision. And Alexandr Romanov by a finish. Right about TKO in the first round. Those are the full card predictions. Make sure y'all like the video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications so you guys do get notified for when I post a new video. It's going to be an amazing card. Font versus Vera is going to be a very legit main event. Very close. I mean, because it could honestly go either way. I am going to be quite honest with you guys. But, yeah, also put down your predictions down below in the comment section, because whoever gets at least, I'm going to say at least 11 out of 10 predictions right here, I will literally Venmo them $100. But you have to comment every single one of those 12 predictions down in the comment section right now. Now, if you can get 11 out of 12, if you get 12 out of 12, I will Venmo you $100 cash. if you can get 11 out of 12 predictions right on this card. Now, it's going to be a very, very tough one because there's so many very close fights. Minus 115, minus 105, minus 140 plus 120, minus 140 plus 120. I mean, there's so many close fights on this card. It's going to be a very tough thing to do. But if you can, 11 out of 12 predictions right on this card, I will Venmo you $100. Also, if you want to become a member to get all of my favorite bets for UFC, for Bellator, for PFL, make sure to go to the last 10 seconds of any one of my videos, could be this one, and click this link right here. Become a member for all of my MMA bets for all the big organizations like UFC, like Bellator, and like PFL. Only $2.99. You can become a member. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Let's go.